Yeah. So it's Dr. Manny. Um, the idea is exploring how to build, nurture, and manage your inner circle. Your inner circle is going to be your core group of people that you attract most strongly based off of the messaging, the communication you have, and just the general way your brand or you are signaling out in the environment. And that goes for personal brands and private brands. So, how do you attract your ideal inner circle? Well, that involves having a clarity of identity, a clarity of where you are in the narrative, a clarity of your vision, and a clarity of your desired outcome, such that you're able to tell your story and project based off what people read about you. They should be able to see into the future and see what you are guaranteed to accomplish so that they can believe in what you're going to accomplish enough that they can plan their own success based off of two things. One, following what you've modeled and demonstrated proficiency and expertise at, and two, and I'm trying to think if I'm framing this right. Two, whether they're able to learn and mimic what you're doing. Because your inner circle basically ends up being a prototype of what you project outwards of yourself, as well as the dark elements of yourself that you haven't faced yet. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to when they're building their inner circle. Until you've done the inner work, you'll attract a lot of people from what's called your shadow function. You'll attract people that end up projections of your fears, projections of your insecurities, and these are people who will say the things that you believe about yourself in your darkest of shamest, darkest of like insecurities, and they will say them outside of you because basically you'll drive them to say it, your behaviors, your actions, your general way of signaling. So, as you're building your inner circle, you want to look to see your ideal avatar shows up. Obviously, your ideal avatar is the person to whom your signal resonates the loudest, the person who most sees the vision as clearly as you do, such that you don't have to spend a bunch of time explaining it to them. Because once you see the vision, you want to be moving. You want to be moving into the vision. You want to be doing what's called inspired action. You want to be taking the steps that you've thought through that indicate the pathway to your desired outcome. You want to be living intentionally. You want to be what they call living in your purpose. Hey, Dr. Dre. Hey, Devon. How y'all doing, fam? So you want to be, when they talk about living in your purpose, most of us don't get what's the next step you do. And then you just end up with that worry, that frustration, because you can't deconstruct the vision. It leads to a feeling where you feel as if you're there, and right outside your reach is this. Hey, Dr. Charmaine, how you doing tonight? Well, this afternoon. So it makes it feel as if you're right on the other side of this chasm that you don't know how to how to cross. And unless you trust yourself, you you kind of wonder if you'll be able to execute to get to there. As you're crossing that chasm, really, here's the thing. It becomes a matter of, since the chasm is always now. That's one thing that people don't really think about. When it's time to cross the chasm, the way in which you cross the chasm determines the inner circle that you attract. Okay? When that chasm is between who you are now and who you will be at your best self, your ideal self. Okay, with your ideal outcomes, ideal life, best outcomes for your family, just all that stuff. So when basically that vision has values embedded in it. And part of those values are that when you achieve that vision, you haven't done certain things because those things are the things that are against your values. Now, in reality, in these trenches, as we're entrepreneurs and we're building these brands and these businesses and you're making business decisions, you're going to be stressed and life is going to be going on, but you're increasing in visibility, so you're attracting people, you're attracting these tribes, you're attracting customers, you're attracting people that trust you and are absorbing you while in the background real life is going on. So now that real life stuff, I mean, that ends up becoming a large part of your brand, whether you know it or not. The way you're treating your body, the way you're handling self care, all those elements, you might not be broadcasting them, but the conversations that you're having on some level will indicate your attitudes about those things because we project. And so, as your kids are growing up, you might have your kid on your show, on your live web stuff. You might have guests come through that you have relationships with on your podcast or whatever. You'll see business relationships come and go, but your inner circle should have values aligned with you. They should be tight like that, where the fact that when people come around you, the people with whom they interact, that's your inner circle. Whether it be live events or whether it be a social media campaign together or retweets, reshares, who's hanging out on your Facebook wall, who's resharing your page. Essentially, that's signaling your inner circle. And that's attracting your customer base, that's attracting your audience. And honestly, it's changing the way you think about yourself because you see yourself reflected in the people with whom you're engaging. Now, that sounds empty if you're thinking of only a social media campaign, but that's a really limited perspective as to how you're living your life and building your business. Your inner circle are the people that you're building real life connections with them. You're this is a business. These are people that are alive, and when they're contributing money to, they're investing in themselves to work with you. They're building a relationship with you, and those people through the lifetime of that relationship become your inner circle because the expectation is that the information that you have that you've used to succeed thus far is going to be propagated to them so that they in turn can help other people solve the problems that you help them solve. That's impact. That's the level to which you're building your inner circle to be that effective. The level to which you're bringing in the right information, you're making sure they're connected to the right people. You're in a state of productive collaboration. We can't be identity driven. We can't be shame driven. We can't be hiding information from each other because you want to look good. You got to know your dark aspects because you're attracting people who also have those same weaknesses. As such, the more vulnerable you choose to be in the solutions that you offer, the more effective you can build relationships, content, and products with people who will read your stuff and have a depth of knowledge about you such that they become your real life inner circle. Such that when you're traveling to a particular city, you're visiting those people. This is like the internet is the telephone, is the radio, is the whatever platform of our generation. If you're still thinking about the people on the internet as an abstract entity, then you're really missing out on the core message here. So the next step, once you understand that, is to start thinking in terms of how you can attract a single avatar that you understand so well that your thought process is able to improve, accelerate, and energize their thought process such that they are able to become more effective. That's your inner circle. Now, from there, you're looking at becoming so attentive and attuned with that audience that you're able to predict the things that they're going to need in the future and have already developed the skills to help them at the very least find the right resources to accomplish their desired outcome. So hopefully I framed that effectively. So all right, this is business, y'all. This is not a joke. This is not a test. you know, um, if you're trying to get the outcome you want, you got to get on it and you got to get moving. You got to get your inner circle tight. You got to start thinking about your product. You got to start thinking about your audience, your ideal avatar, and who you're attracting with your signal. Um, that being said, I'm working on a lot of my stuff that right now, as I grow to understand the audience I'm attracting and the kind of content you guys want from me. Um, I try not to get too caught up in my art because I like to make pretty covers. So I could do pretty covers in audio all day, But I've in the end, the goal is to use this platform as a means to understand better what you want me to provide, such that you're more able to be effective at creating your ideal audience and understanding their needs, such that you're able to serve them more effectively, and such that you understand the process and architecture of converting what it is you're most passionate about um, into something that is able to generate you revenue for you in a way such that you feel as if you are being expressed in integrity yet being perceived with value. So I think I expressed that effectively. I do that sometimes. Like I'm trying to paint out something that I see, and as such, a lot of times the words become a bit nonlinear. And point is that the concept of growing your inner circle, you'll hear it expressed in a lot of different ways, um, but it always begins with inner work. It always begins with developing a better empathy for the people out there. It always begins with getting a deeper knowledge of yourself, because you can't imagine another mind that is any more expansive or different really from your own. You project your way of thinking onto other people, and a lot of times you project your perspective of values and other abstract concepts without even thinking about it. And that's one of the limitations of training in medicine, like where they changed the way we thought so that we were surrounded by people who thought like we did, and we got more and more focused, and we weren't really surrounded by our inner circle. We were surrounded by people who shared the values of origin, because most of us started out so young. Like I was pre-med. I was a pre-med in high school. I was pre-med in seventh grade. But so my inner circle for a large part of my life has been pre-meds, physicians, and scientists. And that's a group that's a product of my tribe of origin, as opposed to my curiosity, because although I met great people, a lot of the time I felt alone because the people that I was surrounded by in the immediate process of becoming a physician weren't. I mean, since third year med school, I wasn't really with my class anymore. I was with a lot of attendings and stuff who, rotation to rotation, had some personalities that in a lot of cases were directly in contradiction with mine. So, so the concept of having a group of people that you're connected to, an inner circle, that you serve involves going back and thinking about who you're attracting now, who you've attracted in the past, who you attract in real life. Recognizing that those people are a reflection of who you've been in the past, and pretty much, most likely, by default, have a same similar view to what you're projecting onto the future, because that's all you guys discuss. Now, when it's time to expand your vision and to dream bigger, then it's going to be time to shift your inner circle such that the next group is aligned with your values as well. Such that you're when you're dreaming, you don't want your dreaming limited by your inner circle not understanding, so that you're describing something, and every time you dream it, you have to dream it anew. Every person you meet, you have to describe it anew. What you want is to be surrounded by people who share your vision because their own vision is similar. And then there's an overlap in views. Now, the radius of your circle, so you have, I imagine it as concentric inner circles. So you have, at the core, you have yourself. And this is the self, where the subconscious all-knowing self, the stuff you know about yourself that you don't really think about consciously. It's the stuff you keep from yourself. So then you go out one radius, like 1 unit. Okay? And that's the stuff you're conscious of. This is your private self. This is who you are inside. This is your creative, expressive self, without the constraints of society. Okay? That's your next circle. Now, you go out a bit, and you're going to have, that circle is a set of rules and it's like values, introjects, just stuff that you've picked up along the way. Okay? Now, there are rules in there, and it's very ego triggering. These are rules that you imagine about society based on your upbringing that don't necessarily exist, but they are sometimes called your limiting beliefs. Okay? So you go out another circle, and that's the layer at which you're looking at the people that you attract, and they're really a projection of your belief of what's out in the world, because there's billions of people out here, but you will have chosen to interact with a small handful based on your beliefs about reality. Okay? Now, that's your inner circle. Those are the people that you tell your deepest secrets, whatever. Your inner circle always matches your beliefs about reality. That includes the stuff that you haven't faced about yourself. When you face it and you try to express it, you will be outgrowing your inner circle, except for a small part of them that will stay with you, and they will cross the chasm with you. So this is going back to the chasm metaphor we talked about earlier. So when it's time to cross it, you got to cross it with your values, with that inner circle. Now, as people let you down, disappoint you, fall apart, and just whatever happens, it's important to realize that these are the people that you've attracted along the way. So when you're angry at them and you have negative feelings towards them, the way in which you criticize them is in part the way you criticize yourself when you're alone. So you want to listen to that, because that attracts your inner circle. The way you, and this is the intimate inner circle. People you marry, roommates, just people that you just have to communicate with a little more deeply. You attract those people based on those values. You attract those people, and they see you in fight flight mode, so they know your shadow and they tolerate your shadow, and they often have shadow issues themselves and weaknesses that overlap with your own. So when you attract your inner circle, and this happens over and over again, you're basically going to be surrounded by the people that play the roles that you imagine in your mind. As you expand your imagination and imagine different roles and act on those imaginings and pursue those different roles, some people will fall out, and your inner circle will be the people that are able to imagine with you, the people who share your vision, the people who are ready to act and move forward. So in business, what we're doing is you serve the audience that's willing to move forward. The people who have an overlap in vision with you, and the people who are ready to execute, then like ready to commit, ready to act, and ready to just follow through. By putting your attention on that, you're able to be productive. You're able to do a lot more effective stuff, as opposed to putting attention on trying to convince people to jump on board, which is what a lot of times we tend to do. Yeah, you with your messaging, if you're targeting an audience that doesn't want to get up, your inner circle will be made up of people who also don't want to get up, and therefore your marketing will continue to attract people who aren't ready to act, aren't ready to move. That's in your signal. That's you're attracting that based off the fact that you're not shifting your attention to an audience that's ready to move. And often that involves you yourself being ready to move. If you're moving and you're talking about what you're doing, you're going to attract an audience that's willing to do that. And that's your inner circle. Your inner circle is based off your. I think all the spring is getting to me, so pardon all the coughing. Yeah, your inner circle is basically based off of the beacon you put out there, who you attract. It is going to resemble your ideal avatar if you focus, if you think through your story effectively, if you choose the right things to be vulnerable about. If you qualify your audience and choose to work with people who actually are ready to change and ready to move forward, as opposed to people who quite frankly aren't going to go anywhere, aren't going to change. I hate to say it like that, but hurt feelings. If you're listening this far in, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So a lot of the other stuff is mechanics. Setting up mailing lists, all the social media and everything. But if you're not thinking about the people behind all of it and the actual inner circle of people you're trying to build and where you're trying to take them and what mission you're trying to accomplish as an org symbolically, yeah, you're juggling noise otherwise. Okay. So that's the concept of inner circle. Clearly, I'll have to go back and do a lot of editing, organizing thoughts and structuring everything in a more digestible way. But I appreciate you guys listening through with me. Dr. Manny, I'm out.